Hi everyone, it's Alex from Risk Academy. I'm here with Sam Savage. Sam, thank you for inviting me to this conference. Probability management, this is what number conference is it?
Oh my gosh, 5 or 6, I think, yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful event, and the theme that you have kind of going through all of the presentations is the Flaw of Averages, which is the title of your first book, and I know you're working on the second edition of that. What does it mean, and what are you working on?
Oh, sure. So there's a mathematical concept called Jensen's inequality from like maybe it's 1906 or something. It states that basically the way I describe I use the Flaw of Averages to describe it because no one's ever heard of Jensen's inequality. It states that plans based on average assumptions are wrong on average. And an example I love to use is consider a drunk wandering back and forth on a busy highway. It's a 2-lane highway, cars whizzing back and forth on each side. Well, his average position is the center line.
Yep, where he's safe from the cars.
Exactly. So at his average position, the guy would be alive. But obviously, on average, he's dead.
Yeah.
So this happens all the time. People familiar with options theory? Well, the payout of an at-the-money call option is 0 because you get no benefit. Yeah, but on average, it's worth a lot. It's called the Black-Scholes equation. So option theory is a special case of the Flaw of Averages. So using averages, that's when, by the way, that's a strong form of the Flaw of Averages, is that the drunk is dead on average, even though at his average position is alive. The weak form of the Flaw of Averages is where you do get the average right, but you miss a lot of important detail. So if you hijack an airliner and ask for $1 billion and have one chance in 1,000 of getting away with it, well, on average, you make $1 million. Okay? Well, that is the true average. It's a horrible characterization of a hijacking, but you do get the right average. So the strong form of the Flaw of Averages is worse than hijacking an airliner, because that's where you don't even get the average right. So many examples. So, for example, you're doing a software project, and it consists of 10 subroutines which must all be completed in parallel before you start. And each subroutine takes on average 6 weeks to complete. 10 teams working in parallel. So what's the chance will be done in 6 weeks? If you use the average of 6 weeks and you go to the boss and you say, hey, we're going to release the software in 6 weeks. Right. Well, there's one chance in 1,000 you'll be done in 6 weeks, because think of each subroutine as sort of having a 50-50 chance of being over or under 6 weeks. The only way you're done in 6 weeks is if all 10 of them are 6 weeks or less. And that's like flipping 10 heads in a row. So it's a horrible, horrible... The Flaw of Averages, Jensen's inequalities version, the strong form, it's not a second-order effect. It is just absolutely devastatingly wrong.
And over the years, you have been a big proponent for using ranges, adding volatility to any decisions that matter. How are you taking this in the second version of the book? Like, what's the direction?
Oh, well, so the difference between the first and second edition of the book is that a miracle occurred. The first book proposed something called the Stochastic Information Packet, which is still the basis of probability management. It's an unambiguous way to represent uncertainty as auditable data. So if I were describing for you the uncertainty of rolling a die, I would roll a die 10,000 times, put it in a database, notes on the date at which I rolled it, and the hermetically sealed vault where you will find the die that I actually rolled. And that hasn't changed at all. What's changed is that in 2012, after the publication of the first edition, I discovered that native Excel can process these SIPs. That is, by using the data table in Excel, you can roll the dice 10,000 times before your finger leaves the enter key. Now, the data table had, in fact, been around for a long time, but it used to crash Excel mercilessly. And I don't know when they fixed it, because I wasn't sticking my finger back in the light socket every 3 days to find out. But that was a total miracle. And it has enabled now the SIPmath tools we have at our website. The SIPmath tools let you build an interactive Monte Carlo simulation in native Excel. That means once you build a model, you can share it with 500,000 of your closest friends.
And you don't need any special software to view it.
No, it's just you just use Excel. And the software to build it is free. We have a guilt-free version that it has some few more bells and whistles that help support our nonprofit. But one of the things I'm adding in the book is basically the flaw of averages enshrined in regulation. So regulation is a big deal, and it's based on safety. If we underregulate, we put people and potentially the planet at risk. If we overregulate, we put the economy and potentially democracy at risk. If we regulate based on the flaw of averages, we do both. You can't do worse than that. And so one of my feelings now that everyone's got Excel, we can have these SIP libraries. And now, of course, with the introduction of the metalog distribution and Doug Hubbard's distributed random number generator, okay, the last of the excuses are out of the way. And I don't have time to discuss the metalog distribution here. I presume you'll talk to Tom about that and learn more about it at our website. It's just a wonderful invention, as is Doug Hubbard's random number generation. But I think the way forward is that the flaw of averages is so blatant. Okay, it's so blatant that I figure, there's a business to be had. We can go out and teach the world, all of us. We can go to the Fortune 500 companies, teach them how to cure the flaw of averages. Or if they don't want to do that, we can go out and organize class action suits among their shareholders. Because for God's sakes, it's just mathematically false what they're doing. And all the excuses of not having the data, I mean, that's not allowed anymore. We've got databases of those things.
So to continue learning about everything we've just discussed with Sam, I will list a website that has more information on metalogs. I will list a website that has more information on the flaw of averages and the SIPs that you use to cure the flaw of averages. So a lot of that information is available. It's all free. Do your research and improve decision making. Thank you so much for that.
Sure. I want to encourage people, by the way, as soon as it's available, to download both the free SIPmath tools and the metalog ribbon that we've developed as well. All right, it's going to be wonderful, and they work together, and they provide a whole new way to look at probability distribution.
And the metalog ribbon is basically just further expanding the functionality of native Excel.
Exactly. That's using Tom Keelan's metalog stuff, but now with this nice user interface to make it fit right in with the SIPmath tools and do simulations of metalogs in Excel. And it's, the SIPmath standard has sort of become like the Lego block standard into which we can snap things like the HDR generator and the metalogs and God knows what other things are going to be able to snap in.
Exactly.
All right?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.